Now then, it's a dehumidifier and it's not working correctly. The compressor works and all that lot, and the cold bit, which is round the back there, freezes up and the fan doesn't run. It's a standard thing. But this is an Ebac, quite an old, very well made, robust dehumidifier. They do work incredibly well, so it's worth repairing. So there's the label. Ebac Limited, Bishop Auckland, England. Look, it even says BEAB approved and complies with BS 800 1988. So that sort of dates it. At least 30 years old. So as you can see, it's quite chunky, and this is a chipboard box which leaves a bit to be desired. So let's have a look. It's a bit counterintuitive to start with, how to get into the thing, but we'll get there. So all this lot here comes out the front. So looking at the back here, we've got loads of screws and we have to remove all of these. There's one there, one there, one there, one here, and some up the top there. So we remove all of those, and this plastic bit still stays here, but the whole of the unit then pushes out the front. So we'll just do that. So that's that lot undone, and then we just gently, have we got all the screws out? Yeah, I'm pretty sure of it. Ah, there we go. We just gently ease this out the front, like that. There we go. Just pull the cable through. And then we can get rid of that. So the fan is behind there. So there are 4 screws there in the corners. And there's the fan. So how on earth are we going to get to that? So it looks like this frame's got to come off. Now, I did experiment here. That's the water tank. And this does lift out. So there's a screw there, one there, and we couldn't find any more. But actually there's some screws underneath here, and I had to admit to a little bit of violence. I had to put a screwdriver between. I felt underneath there and you could feel screws there, but you can't see them here. So I actually put a screwdriver up there between that and just popped those screws through the plastic. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I don't know how. This, it looks like, is a sticker. And so this whole frame has been screwed on and then the sticker put on afterwards. But it is really well stuck. So we'll just undo these screws here. And then we'll see what we're talking about. So I had to experiment here just to find out how it all came apart. Because it was like that and it wouldn't move and there was no visible screws. There we go. And you see there's a screw there. I've already taken that one out. And you can see there where I've pulled through the plastic. So what I propose to do there is drill all the way through, and then when I put it back together I can put the screws from the outside rather than hiding them. However, that's not the only bit of our worries. Getting this fan out is still a bit of a problem. You think, undo those two bolts there, that's fine, but just down there where those two stays are, they're pop riveted on. So it looks like we're going to have to drill some pop rivets out to be able to get that fan out. So there's those two pop rivets, and then hopefully we shall be able to bend those back or something. Otherwise we'll come to the edge here and I'll just come round, and this panel here again is pop riveted together. So maybe if we remove that pop rivet there and the one the other side, it'll all pivot on this pop rivet here and the one the other side. We can but try, but we've got to get that fan out to get it apart to oil the bearings. Okay, if you can see there's the remnants of the steel pin from the pop rivets. So I think I'm going to get the Dremel and just cut through that, because if I try and drill from the other side, I'm not sure what will happen. Maybe if I put a slice through that, it'll make life easier. So I'm just going to go ahead with that. So noise alert and all that sort of thing. And then I'll do the other side. So we've done that. Let's turn her over. And then have a go at drilling those out. There we go. Whoopee. So, I think it's probably best to undo these first. And the washers. There's a spring washer and a flat washer. So that takes you back a bit in time. There we go. Now then. Okay, well that does come off, and we'll need to, I'm not sure, you just watch me struggle a bit. Let's zoom out a bit. Well, we've got the controls there. Maybe we'll have to drill these two out, but I was hoping I wouldn't need to. So we got some wire in there which is clipped in place. So let's just cut these cable ties. Okay, there we go, and we got the fan out, and as you can see it's quite stiff. It would be nice with that fan cable plugged into somewhere, but it doesn't. Okay, so we have to just unthread that and have this motor apart. I wonder if we can drizzle some oil. I can't really drizzle some oil in without taking it apart. I'm going to take the fan off just so that it's easier to handle. There we go. And this fan is pinned on. There are 4 little pins there. Okay, I think we ought to just mark this just so we know the orientation when it goes back together. So let's just scrape that. Then we'll undo those, and that one's actually loose. And is this one loose? It is now. I know. That ain't right, undoing a nut with a pair of pliers. Now then, how on earth are we going to get this apart? We need to tap just there, but I've got to hold the whole thing as well, because they're black. And where's the black go? Yeah, into a right tangled mess of wires. Maybe we can put it up there like that. Can you still see? Just. Right, I'm just going to get that apart off camera because it's a nightmare. Yeah, I think I'll lay this down on its back, put a piece of wood on the top, do all sorts of things. Shame you can't just get to the bearings. So I got this apart eventually. And that one there was particularly tight. In fact, it was very bad. It was just sort of dried up oil, almost like glue. So it had to come apart totally. And I was a bit uncertain how this boss fitted. I couldn't remember. So I took apart a similar motor from the stores, and it's splined on there. So basically it knocks off, which is grand. And there's the other rubber oil seal, which goes on the outside of this bearing here. So that's apart, and these shafts have been cleaned up and it's all been oiled and soaked overnight. So I'm going to put it back together. I've made marks so it'll go back together reasonably easily. It's a bit of a pain that I can't untangle all the wiring and do this on the bench, but there you go. So we'll get back to you once I've put the motor back together. Right, that's that put back together with the nut on there, and it does spin somewhat freer. Now then, we've got to get that back in there without doing any damage. Luckily these blades are flexible and plastic, so I can sort of bend them a bit. There we go. So, washer, spring washer, and nut. Either side. And I'm not going to tighten them up fully until I've got everything bent back in place. So we need to bend that there and there. That's better. And then we need to bring these back up. And then, rather than pop rivets, I think I shall put some dinky little bolts in there. Like that, and that seems to run on those just touch on those fins a bit. Okay, I've got two little bolts in there, and the fan spins reasonably freely, but I've got the King Dick spanner here, and I'm just going to ease this. There we go. So where's that scraping? There we go. So we need to clip those wires out of the way. But that seems to be fine now. Okay, so I think the best thing to do is to clip those out of the way and then fire it up before we put it back in the case, just to make sure. So let's have a look.
Seems well out of the way. I think there was another one here, wasn't there? So let's just poke that back through there, if we can. Except there's a wire in the way. There we go. Fiddly, again.
Okay, snip those off, stand her upright, plug it in, see what happens. And the compressor's running and the fan's running. Whoopee! And it's quiet, there's no rattly bits, so I call that a success. I'll leave it running for 10 minutes just to make sure. So the outside of those is frosting because the case isn't on there, so a lot of the air is being deflected elsewhere. But also, if you look there, that's another part of the heat exchanger, and there's a lot of fluff on there. So I'm going to get the airline and really blow that out quite from the fan side, like you would a radiator in a tractor or a combine or something. Blow all the dust backwards. So it's partially clogged, but I think half the reason why these fins are now freezing up is, as I say, the air is able to bypass them. When the case is on there, it's fed through those, and so therefore the air keeps those tubes from freezing up, and at the same time creating them to be cold, so therefore the water condenses on them. So as I say, I call that a success. We've just got that bit of maintenance to do in there. So that's another bit of technology saved from the junk pile. If each and one of us repairs things like this, I mean, I use these for producing distilled water for the batteries. Also it goes in the car radiator systems and the washer bottles, etc, etc. So each one to repair the stuff, and therefore we save more resources. Hopefully you found this interesting, and catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.